Welcome, everybody. Glad everybody can make it in and hang out with us for a little bit tonight. I am joined, as always, by my partner and Mannimal Research lead investigator, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ricky Weaver. How you doing tonight, Rick?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Are you still getting feedback on your end?
No, I'm not getting any.
Man, I don't know what's wrong with my equipment.
No, I don't know. I think they said that it was cleared up pretty good, but yeah, you sound good where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
Tonight, we are actually going to be welcoming a couple of very special guests, the guys from Cryptid Studies Institute, Johnny and his son Elijah Henderson. They run the Cryptid Studies Institute. They decided to come on and share a little bit about what they do and where all you can find them and some of the encounters that they run into. They're located down here in the South, just like we are. They're in Tennessee, actually. So we are excited to have them on. Rick, how's it going, buddy? You been out doing anything?
No, not this week, Wayne. I'm planning a little deal Saturday morning. I'm going up to Cohutta, WMA, and I've got a couple of spots up there that my brother-in-law, Ricky Hughes, used to work for the Federal Forestry Service. He still works for them on a consultant type basis. Ricky with them for like 30 years, and he gave me a couple of leads on a couple of places to go this weekend that I'm gonna go check out and see what's up with all that.
Good deal. Yeah, me and Walls actually went out this past Sunday for a little bit, and we found some interesting stuff. I think that we're going to try to put together a little show tomorrow night, and talk a little bit about it. Show some pictures, some stuff we found. It was interesting. And of course, I'd like to ask everyone. First of all, thank everyone for tuning in, watching this. Nobody's going to watch it. I want to ask everybody to please hit that subscribe button. We're obviously a new group, and it's sometimes hard getting started and trying to get a good following. And we've had some people subscribe. We appreciate it. I want to ask everybody else to go ahead and do that, please. Sure appreciate it. Also, we are always looking for more encounters because we do believe that some of the best research that can possibly be done other than field research is learning behavior, which comes from eyewitness accounts. And we need people to call in, tell us about what they're experiencing with these things, and come on the show, share your encounter with us, and no better way of learning. Throughout the night, I will be putting up my email along with Rick's email. Just contact us through there. We're also going to be sharing some stuff that the guys at the Cryptid Studies Institute sent us. So we'll be sharing some of their stuff as well. But guys, seriously, if you don't mind, send us your encounters and hit that subscribe button. Something else I wanted to run by everybody. Just want to get feedback from everyone. Let us know in the comments, what you think about it. Rick and I have been trying to come up with a way to get some additional funding for our research. And one thing that we have come up with is offering guided Bigfoot expeditions. That's something that we're looking into doing. We've already contacted people to start getting the appropriate permits and licenses and everything to do this. And I think it'd be a good way to do it. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of organizations are doing it, and it can be pretty expensive. We plan to be pretty pretty competitive with our rates. But first, we want to reach out to everybody and try to get an idea, get an understanding of what you guys think. And if you think it'd be a good idea, Rick approached me with it a few days ago, and I have been thinking about it quite a bit. And so it's really his baby. So, Rick, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I've gave this a lot of thought, and as you said, Wayne, these places, these different groups do charge a lot of money for this type of thing. And I do want to be able to keep our rates competitive to what everybody else does. I'd like to actually be able to keep it a little lower than a lot of them do. Therefore, I've kind of come up with a deal that we can offer funded tours from fully functional tours where we furnish everything, right down to where if people want to join our tours, they can furnish their own camping equipment, their own food, lower the cost that way.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I think we're going to give it a shot. We're going to try it, but we do need some feedback from you guys to see if that might be something that all you guys would be interested in participating in. Rick, got anything else before we bring on our guests?
No, go ahead and bring them on, Wayne.
All right. Like I was saying, got Johnny and Elijah ready to come on with us. They are the founders of the Cryptid Studies Institute, and we are glad to have them. Guys, good evening.
Guys, just as soon as you guys started talking to yourself, we started having something catastrophic on this end. You're both breaking up so bad that we can't hardly hear but a syllable or two you're saying.
Yeah, it keeps your screens will keep buffering, and the audio keeps cutting out.
Now, we just checked on YouTube, and we can hear you there, but we can't hear you through this end.
Okay, you can't hear us right now?
Not really. You keep coming in and out. So we'll do the best we can on this end. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Rick, can you hear him?
Oh, yeah, I hear them fine.
Hope it's not something on our end.
Well, I don't see how it could be. Just something in translation, but we'll do the best we can for you.
Okay, yeah, I certainly appreciate it, guys, and I apologize for that. Just I'll give you the mic. Just start out telling us a little bit about your organization and where you guys are from, and just tell us what you do.
Okay. Well, first off, my name is Johnny Henderson, and this is my son,
Elijah Henderson.
We head up the Cryptid Studies Institute. Now, sometimes people will get confused when we tell them Cryptid Studies Institute because they'll be like, Institute, you've got a school? And I'm like, no, an institute can be like almost like a fellowship of like-minded believers. And that's what we are. We try to associate ourselves with people who have similar thoughts, ideas, and beliefs in the field. And we've been formed for about 10 years in one iteration or another. We kind of went back. We were partnered up with some other people, and things just didn't work out the way we would have liked. So we kind of went our separate ways, and we relaunched Cryptid Studies Institute and took it in a different way in about January of last year, wouldn't you say?
Close to that, yeah.
And since then, we've actually started doing okay. We've got about 1,200 and something subscribers now, and we like to go out. We do a lot of field research. We've been into it, actual research, and since around 2000, and we just try to go bigger and bigger every year and do more and more and try to find as much evidence in the field as we can. We've been up in we've been up in your neck of the woods in the last year. I don't know if you've told people where you're from or not, but we have got what we call a nightmare nugget. We do like little miniature documentaries where people have had encounters and sightings. and we will put those up in little documentary form. So we've been working on some of those. We've been doing field research on our own. We got a lot of things going. Elijah, you got anything to add to that?
Well, we post a lot of these documentaries that they're almost documentary in nature, even though they're small, but we travel really as far as we can. We've been all the way to the real Exorcist house, the one that spawned the inspiration for the movie in St. Louis, Missouri. We've been down to Taylor, Mississippi, over at the Devil's Crossroads in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Harlan County, Kentucky.
That's a great one.
Yeah, they've got at least 3 different cryptids they're being harassed with over there. We've been looking into those. So there's been a whole lot of stuff going on.
So we're gradually spreading out further and further. It's just a matter of time.
We're looking to take on new team members soon. So if anybody's got a real interest, contact us. But I think one of your first questions that you usually ask people is, how did we get started in Bigfoot research?
Yes.
Well, for me, Bigfoot has always been a thing. Now, you are over in East Tennessee, right?
Yes, sir.
I think we share a hometown. I was born and raised in Ray County, Tennessee, or Dayton, Tennessee. And my mama growing up there in the late 50s and early 60s, and I hope she never sees this. She'll have a fit at me telling people our personal family business. If you know anything about people from the mountains or Appalachia, you know, they don't want some peckerwood knowing any of their private business.
Mm-hmm.
So she'd probably brain me with something she knew I was telling it on live air. But over in the Ray County in the early 50s or late 50s, early 60s, my Myrtle had a sawmill that sat right where the housing project is today. Are you familiar with where the housing project is there in Ray County?
Yeah, I know where it's at.
Right up there, my Aunt Myrtle used to own all that land up there. It was all wilderness, field land, and woods. And they had a house up there, and they had a sawmill. And I believe it was in the early 60s instead of the late 50s, but I could be wrong. Sometime in that time frame. There's not enough years to make a difference. But my mama, she was a teenager living there. And up on the back side of that property, there was a long road that came in through there. And most everybody had to do a lot of walking back then. And if you was out after dark, you was walking up them long, twisty roads. And it got to where they was coming home, her and a bunch of her teenage cousins and brothers and sisters walking up that road. And because they'd been out too long after dark. And they noticed that there was these big clay hills that went up on both sides and it's kind of canopied in by trees. And they noticed that there was a sound of something walking and sometimes breathing up on top of that hill. And as it would walk, they would see like balls of clay and stuff rolling down off that hillside. But if they would walk, it would walk. If they would run, it would run. If they stopped, it would stop. And this went on for a while like that, you know, when they was coming in and out at night. And eventually it started, whatever was up on that hill started following them all the way home. And it would come up on their back porch, you know, and houses in that area didn't have door locks. So this thing would follow them all the way up and it would chase them to the house, and they'd run in the house and it would come up on the back porch trying to get in the door. And they didn't have locks, so they'd have to slide the refrigerator or the stove in front of the door to keep it out. And eventually they got to where they were seeing what it was. They were ironing one night in the back room. Like the young kids, teenagers, they'd go off in one room and the boys be sitting in there shooting a breeze with them while the girls were ironing or doing whatever. And one night they was listening to country music records, ironing and just chewing the fat together. And they started hearing this raspy, heavy breathing. And they got to looking around and they turned and looked out the window, and there was a big creature sitting there looking in at them, watching them. And they said it had these big red looking eyes, that it was just watching them, and it had like a big wide nose and kind of a hairy face. They said it looked like a man, but it also looked like a monkey in some way. They just always described it as like this big monkey looking face. And it'd be like, breathing while it watched them. Well, being country kids, they didn't know what it was. So what do people in the South do? They decided they was going to shoot it. So yeah, you know how people down there in the mountains are.
Oh yeah.
So my uncle grabbed a flashlight and my mama grabbed a 22, and they went outside and was going round and around the house trying to find it, but it was gone. And so that's all that happened that night. But they eventually would see it like standing down by the barn. They would see like these big red eyes down close to the barn. My cousin Bill, he loved riding horses, and he had a lot of field land up there, and he was riding his horse one day, and lo and behold, his horse didn't run up on this thing laying on the ground asleep and jumped over it. Well, when he jumped over it, it scared the creature, and it jumped up, and it scared Bill and the horse. You know, they kind of scared each other. And Bill, for the longest time, wouldn't even go back down the pasture to ride his horse because he had jumped over that thing laying there asleep. But it kind of
all this happened in Ray County, and the area that you are describing, where the housing authority is, housing projects are, that's pretty close to down there in the middle of town. So it's something for these things to be coming that far down, wouldn't you say?
Well, now again, remember, I don't know what age man you are. How old are you?
I'm 40.
You're 40.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm 51, and man, when I was a kid, that was still kind of a real wilderness town around there. Okay. Everything that's there now didn't used to always be there. So back in the early 60s, it was really still kind of countrified. But it's close to where town is now. It's right in town really now because the town spread out so much.
Mm-hmm.
But their incident culminated when somebody kept coming up stealing their hogs, and they didn't know who was doing it. They just thought it was one of their neighbors or somebody just coming up stealing their livestock. And, you know, you steal people's livestock years ago, you know, that's how they lived. You know, that was their food source. And that's an egregious offense. But they was these hogs were coming up missing. They sent my Uncle Clyde down there, and Clyde was one of the meanest men that ever bothered daylight. He wasn't afraid of anything. And but they sent him down to the barn to see if he could catch who it was. He went down there and laid a trap, and he took my Uncle Jim and my cousin Bill with him. And they got down there before sunset, and they hid in the barn, kind of laid a trap, and they were waiting. And before too long, after it got dark, the pigs started just raising Cain, going nuts. And they said this big thing, being country people, they just said it looked like a big old monkey come loping out of the woods over there to where the hogs were, reached in and grabbed a hog, threw it over its shoulders, and walked off back in the woods with it. And they said it was so big that there's no way they would have shot it, because as big as it was, the gun they had, they said, would just made it mad. Now, shortly after that, all the activity just disappeared, and they started seeing newspapers. And I've been trying to find some newspapers that had the accounts in it, but I can't seem to find any. But they started seeing newspapers from other towns right across the river over there about them having trouble with a wild man, a hairy wild man over there. So they kind of figured that it just wandered over across the pond somehow. But in those days, it would have had to have swum, because they wasn't nothing but a ferry to get across that river.
I remember the ferry, yeah.
But that's how I got into it. I always grew up believing about it, you know. And years later, you know, when I was a lot younger, my Aunt Myrtle, she moved on out towards Old Washington. I'm sure you know where Old Washington is.
Yeah, that's the area I live in.
But on that road out that way. And we'd stay at her farm with her a lot. And we would hear bizarre noises out in the woods, something hollering off in the distance. And they would always tell us kids, y'all stay close to the house. Don't go in the woods today. There's a Bob Wowster out there. Now, they didn't know what a Bob Wowster was. They just had to come up with a name for whatever it was. But they was worried whatever it was would get one of us kids. And years later, now that I'm grown and done research, I know exactly what that noise was. It was a Sasquatch. But that's how my interest got piqued in it.
Now, have you and you also, Elijah, in any of your trips out, have y'all ever seen a Sasquatch firsthand?
I have not seen one personally. Now, he's seen what we believe was a few Sasquatch over in Montgomery Bell State Park.
Probably the biggest activity that I've ever had as far as anything to do with the Sasquatch is 2009. If you guys got a moment, want to hear the story.
Absolutely.
2009, my friend Nathan, he was coming up to visit. He lived over in Virginia, and he was coming over to visit me one night. It was October 2009, and he was wanting to go Bigfoot hunting. And I was thinking, oh man, I wish he'd wait till tomorrow night for us to do that. I'm so tired and I got to get up early and come to work. Where can I take him? Now, I thought, and I was like, well, we know that there's something on the backside of Montgomery Bell State Park at Werewolf Springs, but I'll tell him that we're going to just try over here on this side of the park. So he come and I was like, hey, Nathan, let's go to Montgomery Bell. And so we went there, and I didn't think we'd get any activity. My idea was I'd take him somewhere. We'd go looking around for a little while. We wouldn't get any activity. We'd come home, and I could get some sleep before I went to work. And the next night, we could go to Werewolf Springs and do our real hunting. Figured I could please myself and him. Mm-hmm. But we parked the car, and we parked it close to the campground, and we walked in. We walked across the little bridge that's there, and then past the ranger's house, and back down this little gated road that they close off at night. Now, I don't advocate sneaking into parks, but I did it anyway. I probably shouldn't have. But you know how the lure of doing something like that is.
Absolutely.
We walked back there, and there's like a little stone church. There's like an old log cabin built there, and there's like a little covered, what would you call that? Not really a canopy, but
it's
pavilion.
More, yeah. Really sitting spot.
Yeah, it's like a little covered picnic tables. It's got a bathroom built into it. So we walk back there, and when we get back there to that little pavilion area, we started hearing some raspy breathing, and we just was listening to that and was trying to record it. You know, we didn't have a recorder going because we didn't expect any activity that quick. We had just done a tree knock, and just a couple minutes before, over on the left side of the field, it almost looked like for just a second I saw, or thought I saw, I don't know. I don't even want to claim it as a for sure anything, but it almost looked like some kind of big hairy thing with its arms like that. And it was just that much of a flash that I didn't even say anything. I was like, mind playing tricks on me. But we get over there and we start hearing this raspy breathing, and we listened to that for a little bit. And we're trying to find the source of it. Can't really find the source of it. And we turn around behind us and walk over to a cluster of trees that's probably about 100 yards away. And we start looking in there with night vision. And I saw a deer up there. I didn't see anything, but my friend Nathan swears that he saw eye shine of something up there that wasn't a deer. And he started claiming that he was getting pelted with little gravels. He might have, I don't know. I always try to look for a natural source for a problem before I start thinking cryptid or supernatural or anything like that. And I was thinking, well, maybe because it's fall, maybe it's little acorns falling or little sticks. But he kept claiming he was getting pelted with little gravels. And we stayed there for a little bit, and we started all at once kind of getting an uneasy feeling. And we could kind of hear something sound bigger walking around up on the hillside. Never could see it. So he's like, well, let's start walking back towards the car area. And as we started walking past the car or toward the car, we had a long track in there. You could hear walking up on the hillside up here. But as we got down this little narrow road, there's a creek over here, hillside up here. And as we're walking down the road, you can hear something over here in the creek walking too. It sound bipedally. And we kept walking, kept hearing it walk, both sides, walk, 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 splash, splash, splash. And we finally made our way out. We walked back across the little bridge we'd come in and decided that we'd just go up here and do some tree knocks in a cemetery on the back side of the ranger's house. Well, we got up to the little cemetery, and we turned our flashlights off, and we was talking a minute before we started to do our knocks. I was telling him, and just for a second, Nathan, I almost thought I saw something over there. I hadn't no more than got the words out of my mouth when something screamed at us in the dark. It sounded kind of owlish, it sounded kind of doggish, and it sounded kind of apish, and with a little bit of human sound all rolled into it. I couldn't mimic if I had to. It was just the most bizarre scream I ever heard. And I was just a couple of years out of a heart attack, and I just kind of like, ooh, it kind of spooked me, and I staggering back, it was so shocking. I almost had a little chest pain there for a minute. And trying to get my flashlight on. By the time we got our lights back on, we couldn't find anything, no trace of anything there. But that scream was just, it just filled us with so much excitement. We walked back to our car and we called our wives. It was like, guess what? You'll never guess what just happened. We just heard something scream at us. And we'd woke them up and they're like, oh, congratulations, honey. Yeah, that's great. Basically just leave me alone so I can go back to bed.
Mm-hmm.
But we're excited about it, and we call them. And then we get off the call, we go into the park, we use the restroom, we come back out, and around this little baseball field on the side of the road, close to the little cemetery where we were, there's a little short fence made out of almost look like cedar timbers. It's about 2 foot off the ground. So it's like, well, let's sit down here and we'll keep our recorders, we'll get them ready and see if we hear anything. And just stick around for a while. By that time, I could care less about getting up early. But we sit there and we are listening. And as we sit there, it's been raining all night, but it's been a real light, misty rain. And it's so misty, and it's rain. It's not really fog, but it looks foggy. The fog, the mist is just so thick. And we're sitting there talking and carrying on. And all at once, probably about 30 or 40 minutes later, we smell this it might have been a little bit longer than that. I can't remember exactly. But as we're sitting there, we start smelling this real musky, oily, skunky smell. And we're thinking for a minute, we're like, man, what is that? Is that suit or that RV septic dumping station over there? And we decided, no, it's not. It's really not the right smell, and it's coming from the wrong direction. And we start shining our flashlights around, and we see Eyeshine standing on the opposite side of this little bridge. Like if this were the bridge, there's 2 sets of Eyeshine on this bridge over here. And we could see it, and the Eyeshine's going back and forth across the bridge like this, back and forth. And we watched this for a while, and then we start moving down just a little bit closer, and you can see 2 big, tall figures over there walking back and forth across that bridge. And depending on how the light hit it through the fog, it would look to him. He said the Eyeshine looked red. To me, it looked green and red, depending on how the light would hit it. And I think it's probably something the way the light was refracting through the mist.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept watching that. And down under the bridge, on the bottom, because up here's the ones on top, and down here there's like water going under it and a little wall that's built there. There was another one, whatever it was, small one, and it was doing this right here. It'd bob around, peek, and it'd step out, and it'd look at us, then it'd step back behind the wall. So we said, let's go down there and get a closer look. So we walked up a lot closer, and you could definitely see these were like big humanoid shapes, but it was giving off Eyeshine. And the closer we got, something over here on the side would start stomping and breaking limbs. It was off in the woods over here. We couldn't see what it was, but if we'd back up away from close to the bridge, it would stop. But every time we tried to come to the bridge, it would start again. And no joke, we watched these things, but was just going back and forth across the bridge and stepping out from under it, watching us, bobbing around for probably 20 or 30 minutes, and they were just watching us. And we kept going, trying to get close enough, thinking, well, maybe they're used to us now, we'll go. We'd try to go down there and start breaking stuff again. And so we just kept watching it, and they kept watching us. And then all at once, the two on the other side of the bridge started walking toward our side of the bridge. And that kind of freaked us out a little bit because we was like, well, that might not be safe if they've decided to come over here with us. So we started backing away, back into our car, back over here by the campground. And as we're backing away, whatever had been smashing limbs and breaking them on the other side in the woods, just kind of almost knuckle walked on all fours out of the woods and up behind this garbage can. And then it would like peek over at us, watching us, and then move its head around. Then it would peek around the side of it. And to me, it looked like it's a lighter brown color. But Nathan claims that he actually saw it and said it had like a darker brown face, and he could see the skin on its face. He said it looked more like an ape. Now, I didn't see that detail, but I did see it kind of knuckle walk itself out and get behind the can and watch us. So at that point, we just eventually backed our way all the way to the car and sat there for a while and kept talking about the encounter. And then when we got ready to go, I said, now, let's pull over there and drive across that bridge and see if we see anything. And we pulled across the bridge, went over the water, back toward the little road where we had walked in towards the little church. And out in the field over here, there's like one lone pear tree that had been there. And it had late season pears on it. And a lot of them pears were gone. And all around the base of the tree, there's like looked like little bipedal tracks all around the tree, in the wet grass, because the grass looked real silvery. And you could see those little trails going all around that tree. I figured they was over there getting them pears. And I think the reason that they followed us out from that area is because they might have been raiding trash cans where people had been throwing stuff away. And I think we just interrupted them. Now, they didn't try to harm us in any way, but I didn't think that it would be safe, with them coming across the bridge toward us to try to stick around. But that's probably our best experience with an actual Bigfoot.
How long ago was that?
That was 2009. But the shape looked very much like, imagine Chewbacca from Star Wars. It kind of looked like those shapes through the fog. So if it was somebody, they had to have reflective eyes shine and be extremely tall and built like that.
And be willing to wait around in that creek.
Yeah, and be willing to wait around in that creek in October.
And where was this park at?
Montgomery Bell State Park in Dixon, Tennessee.
Dixon, Tennessee. Okay.
And in the same region, they have just a rock's throw away from it. They have a legend that's called the White Bluff Screamer. And in some iterations of that, it's described as like a Sasquatch-like creature.
Or a Dogman. And on the very back side of the park since the 1800s, you can look it up, the legend of Werewolf Springs. People have been seeing and even before I knew that there was a legend there, I worked in doing construction. And a lot of people on the job site would talk about if you go to this certain cemetery at night, if the moon is full, sometimes you can see a werewolf crossing the cemetery. And I didn't put much stock into it or anything like that. I thought it was just local legend until we went to the Montgomery Bell and was camping out, and they showed a little miniature documentary they had called The Legend of Werewolf Springs, where they talked about a werewolf, as they called it, been on the backside of the park since about the 1800s when a circus train crashed, and they caught all the creatures except the male and female of something called a wild man of Borneo. But since the 1800s, people have reported seeing some kind of a creature out there. And I was just like, oh, well, if there's any truth to it, I bet that's just a misidentified Bigfoot. Because at the time, we didn't believe in Dogman. But we decided we'd go out there just for fun and kind of look around and see if we saw anything. We went out one day. It was cloudy, windy. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock. And we got off the trail. You walk down this old dirt road or gravel road, and I noticed a trail going through the brush or the grass and weeds, and it had like a little pine thicket there, and some of these pine trees were broke off up about 3 or 4 feet tall, higher than an average person could just, break something off. It had to reach up here to break it off. And we started following that through the woods or to the woods, and we stepped off in the woods, and we hadn't gone but about 100 yards, and we noticed there's like a circle or a semicircle of feathers just going around on the ground. It's like somebody had caught a turkey or something and had just been plucking it right there, just throwing the feathers down. And we're sitting here looking at this, and the train, there's a train goes off in the distance. Man, something is itching my nose to death in here. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I just make sure everybody knows that my nose is itching, not because of cocaine or anything like that, but because something's actually itching. I want people saying, well, that guy couldn't leave his nose alone. He probably on drugs. No, I'm not on drugs. But
Yeah,
but, we're standing there looking at that, and the train goes off, and it blows a whistle off in the background. And when that whistle went off, man, it upset something's apple cart big time. And it let out the most mournful, god-awful howl or roar or something. It sounded like an 800 or 900 pound wolf over there just bellowing for all it was worth. And when we'd walked in, there was these two ladies that was going just backpacking. And one of them had a little baby on her back as she was backpacking. And we seen them from the distance come running down a trail, and that little baby's head was just giving it this. They was trying to get out of there when that thing went to hollering.
And you could feel it just rumble in your chest, almost like when you pull up at a stoplight and you hear somebody's playing some rap music or something, and you can feel the bass just kind of vibrate through your whole body. You could feel it vibrating in your chest in the same fashion.
It is like the loudest thing I've ever heard. But that would be his first experience with anything.
That's basically what got me involved in everything. And I was like 5 or so at the time, so it just terrified me. I wouldn't go to that part of the park at all for goodness.
For several years.
While.
Yeah, he was terrified of that park, and rightfully so, because it was really scary.
And lucky me, he kept going every chance he could get, so I kept having to find excuses to not go.
And I'd still take him. I didn't ever want him to be afraid, but he's recouped perfectly now, and he'll wander off miles in the woods by himself without even much of a flashlight now. So he's really recouped from it. Made him a lot braver.
Good deal. Well, you guys, y'all sent me some pictures. So if y'all don't mind, I'm going to show a couple of these. And as I show them, just explain to us just exactly what they are and how you came about them, if you don't mind.
All right, this will be exciting for me because I don't know what he sent.
And let me just add the technical difficulties. They've greatly improved. We can hear you pretty perfectly.
Yeah, that was me. You are welcome.
Nice.
What we got here, fellas?
This is we believe it's probably a Sasquatch track. We found it at Land Between the Lakes a couple of weeks ago. But this track in itself, it was about 14, maybe a little over 14 inches. Not much of it is. 14 inches long, and across the toes, it's about 6 inches. Big track. It's about 1.5 inches into the ground. I tried to mash down beside it, and I couldn't even do anything. Whatever was stepped there was heavy. Now, what makes this track anomalous is that it was in the northern part of Land Between the Lakes. You almost never find any trace of Bigfoot in the northern end of the park. That's usually the end of the park where all the dogmen roam around. And for whatever reason, they don't seem to go into each other's territory. So finding a Bigfoot track in that part of the park is really unique.
Yes, anything from Land Between the Lakes, Bigfoot related, you generally always hear that it's somewhere in the south. Now, the other day, a friend of mine from work, he told me that his landlord's daughter said she seen a Bigfoot over at an area. Is that area in the north or south?
What's that? Wrangler's Camp is barely in the north.
Okay, well, it's more towards that direction. And she said she's seen it standing in a field over by Wranglers and is about 7 or 8 feet tall. And that's about all the details I could get from him. But that was
but at the same time, a dog man was sighted there at the Wranglers Camp too. So we don't know if she just didn't know there was the existence of a dog man, or just assumed anything big and hairy would be Bigfoot, or if she actually saw a Bigfoot.
This was about 3 to 5 weeks ago, should be added, so it's very recent.
Anything from the elk, bison, prairie line northward is usually Dogman. Anything lower than that oftentimes is a Sasquatch.
Now, have y'all been finding Dogman tracks or what you believe is Dogman tracks?
Haven't found tracks, but something sure ran us out of the woods there during the summer.
Now, I think we may have found one over in Werewolf Springs, but that was years back.
Yeah, it's a few years ago. We got a spot that we go and camp in Montgomery Bell that's attributed. Have you ever heard of the bowman hunter that died over there?
Mm-mm.
A bow hunter died there a few years ago. Some people say he died of natural causes. Other people say that he died as a creature attack. And whatever happened, there's certainly a lot of mystery surrounding it. But his body was found over in a little holler over there.
And it's partially eaten by something, but it may have been little animals in the region. But
most people say that it was something bigger ate him. But either way, where his body was found 2 years ago, someone sighted a Dogman there. They were in their tent asleep, and they woke up, and this thing was just walking through the backside of their camp. And he just, when it got out of sight, he ran back to his car, left his tent and everything, just didn't even go back for it. So when we heard this, we decided that's exactly where we're going. We went and set up in the exact same spot. And as we were getting our stuff together, setting up, had our tent already set, and we set it up too close to a little creek. And as it started cooling off, all these cottonmouth snakes started coming out. And there's like 6 or 8 cottonmouths slithering around our camp. And my wife, she's okay with Dogman. She's okay with Bigfoot, but she is not okay with snakes. And she decided that we was going to go home and come back another time. So as we're slowly gathering our stuff up, it's dark now. All night, my wife and my son was telling me, I keep hearing something like dogs barking. I keep hearing growl or walking or howling.
Barking in the distance.
And I'm like, no, you don't. We're out here, and you just think you're hearing it because, that's what you think is going to be out here. It's all in your mind. Of course, I should have listened to him. I'm gradually going deaf from too many years in the Bigfoot, or not Bigfoot, but the construction industry.
Definitely not Bigfoot.
But we're gradually getting our stuff together, and I had a headlamp on, and I turned around, and I see these orange eyes watching me from the bushes. And it's out. Then it comes out in the road, and it's pretty close to the road. And I'm like, is that something on all fours? What is that? I couldn't see nothing but the eye shine. And I get Elijah's attention. We walk across the creek, and we have to pass. We got a trail cam over there we needed to get anyway. I get his attention, and we get across the creek, and we got to pass a cottonmouth that's coiled up in the roadway right there where we got to go. We get past it, and we get close enough to this thing, and it's a raccoon. And it's bobbing and weaving, looking at us, standing up. And we're watching it watch us. And I step over in the bushes to get our trail cam that's tied to this little tree. And Elijah asked me, did you see that blue eye shine? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I just saw blue eye shine. And I'm like, where? And he said, back there by that tree. And I'm like, back there by that really dark spot by that tree? And no sooner had I said that than something grunted at us real loud and then shook the whole tree. It either growled or grunted. I'm not sure which.
It is kind of a weird noise. It's very deep in nature, but
it was a very, very foreboding noise. I'll say that.
It wasn't friendly.
Yeah, it didn't sound friendly. And so we don't really have anything of good protection nature with us. So we start back and back. We got a big copper spear with us and a torch and flashlights. And so we start backing away. We got to get past the snake, get back across the creek. And
believe it or not, the snake was almost the worst part of that whole experience.
Yeah.
Because you had to keep an eye off in the woods, and you
didn't know if another one was going to. Yeah, because if it was a Dogman, these things are known to flank you. But I believe now that dark spot I saw back by the tree was probably it. It was just so black that it looked like a dark spot.
And we went back up a few weeks later, and that area I think was a little bit brighter then, so it
so it
have the
had to have
same
been something
colors.
standing there. But he didn't want to go home. He was upset because his mom wanted to go home, and we was packing up, and he was really excited now because something grunted at us. And I'm like, look, I'll make a deal with you, son. We'll go ahead and load the car. We'll leave the camp chairs out. We'll sit here with a fire for a little bit, and we'll listen. We'll go home in a couple hours. And he was happy with that. You know, we got everything that we needed loaded up except for our torches, the fire pit. And did we have the fire pit loaded up at that time?
Well, we had a fire going in it. We had to get it cooled off before we put it back in the car.
Yeah, so
But there's
we
a creek
put the
close
fire
by.
out, and we was dipping it in the creek. And then we went and sat down in our chairs and just kept our torches out. And as we were sitting there, I told Elijah, I was like, hey, Elijah, do you still have that dog whistle in your pocket? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, take it out and blow it real quick. And he took the whistle out and he blew it, but he didn't have it adjusted right, so it didn't sound right. Nothing happened. We sat there for a little while longer, and we talked a little while, and I was like, Elijah, blow that whistle again. And he adjusted it, and he gave it a big, long whistle. And 40 seconds later, I know it's 40 seconds because we timed it on after we got the audio. We had our audio going.
Mm-hmm.
Come tearing through those trees behind us, not on the opposite side where we had been, but from behind us, just tearing trees left and right, breaking them. You can even hear some of the footage on our Nightmare Nugget on our Instagram, not Instagram, but our YouTube page.
Dark Hollow.
It's called Dark Hollow, the Beast of LBL. So you can kind of hear those trees breaking.
And it sounded like a darn Tyrannosaurus Rex coming through the woods. It wasn't anything real small that could just break small branches. It was like trees breaking.
Yeah, you hear these things cracking. And so at that point, you know, I told everybody, get in the car. And I think the only reason that it didn't come all the way out on us is because we had those torches.
Now, the best part of this is while we were all scrambling back inside of the van to get out of there, well, our torches kept relighting, like some of those
inside the
birthday
like
candles that relight
those party
themselves.
candles that wouldn't go out, and we're having to try to keep those out.
Pour a water bottle on top of them, try to get them to go out.
But yeah, it was something that just was not happy. We blowed that whistle.
No, not at all.
Which is ironic because in the southern part of the park, we had an area we go to, a little cemetery that when we would go there a couple of years ago, we was blowing the whistle, doing tree knocks and stuff, and we'd blow the whistle, and something started mimicking the whistle. It sounded like big, flat, human-like teeth, just imitating whatever noise we'd make. And it'd done that for 10 or 15 minutes. You know, we'd blow the whistle, make a noise, and then it would make it back at us. And then it started raining, and we left. Well, 2 or 3 days later, we come back, and we're doing tree knocks, and then whatever had been there before starts whistling at us like, hey, blow that whistle back again. And we start blowing the whistle, and it starts mimicking it again. And it wasn't a bird or anything like that because it just sounded like big, flat human teeth somebody whistling through them. But it was mimicking the sounds that we would make. And that was pretty exciting. So we decided we'd try that up in the northern end of the park. And no, it was a very, very bad decision to blow that whistle up there in the northern end of the park.
It didn't turn out the way we might imagined it would.
Okay, so you think you were getting responses on the southern end from maybe a Sasquatch?
Yes, we do believe that because I had actually, like a year or so before, got a picture that I believe was a juvenile Sasquatch print because there wouldn't be any kind of human down that far down a dirt, muddy road walking barefooted. You know, so I believe it was like a little Bigfoot print. It's about yay long. I've got pictures of it somewhere if I didn't lose them when my old computer crashed.
I think that one's actually on our website. I think I seen it the other night, but I got to add a lot more pictures to it.
Yeah, but I really think whatever's down there, it's the southeastern side of Land Between the Lakes and around one of them little old cemeteries. You got to drive a couple of miles down the old dirt road. And there's a cemetery down there, and that's where that encounter took place. There was nothing seemed aggressive at all about that place.
And there's cemeteries all over LBI. I think there's like 200 plus, right?
228.
228. They're all over the place out there.
I've noticed a lot of places that we go to, you can get a lot of good Sasquatch activity around cemeteries. Now, I've been told that Sasquatch likes stones, so that might be why there's a lot of activity, cause the gravestones. I don't know.
And at the same time, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of people at a cemetery at night. I mean, unless you're somebody like us. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that I've heard that too. One of our research areas is right next to a cemetery, and Rick has had a lot of encounters out there. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's definitely something some correlation with the cemetery. I was just I was curious the difference because I've never seen a dogman track, like the difference in a Sasquatch and a dogman track.
I've seen a couple of different ones. One of them just looks like a big dog track, so big. We've got pictures. Is it on our website? The one that that lady sent us, where her full-grown mastiff stepped in it.
no, unfortunately, that one's not.
Well, we've got a picture that a friend of ours sent us. I want to say it's from Ohio, where she had Dogman and Bigfeet on her property, and she said they wouldn't go into each other's territory. And every park that we've ever went into looking for these things, people who's had sightings, always, we've never encountered it yet. The Bigfeet always stay to the south, and the Dogmen stay to the north. I don't know what the correlation is there, but it's always the same way. That Bigfoot print that we sent there that we said was anomalous is the first hint of a Bigfoot we've ever seen in the northern end of a park where there's dogmen.
Now we've heard that there's like a couple of big feet that stay up in the north, and slowly the dogmen are
starting to kill
them out.
Yeah, starting to kill the ones out in LBL. What we heard, and like I said, nobody's an expert, and I don't think anybody really knows, is that a lot of your state parks and national parks, if you go back and look at the history, are places where creature sightings have took place in great abundance. And if you're a conspiracy theorist, like some people are, they say that that's why the government took over these lands and made them parks where they could regulate, because they knew these things were there. But land between the lakes is made in such a way that these dog creatures are literally trapped in the north because there's water on three sides of them. And then they've got land with big feet in the south. So they kind of have been trapped in the north all this time because they just can't get out. But now, as their populations seem to be growing, we keep hearing that they're gradually starting to kill the big feet out.
And they're coming further south.
I mean, we've even had people send us accounts saying that they've got people they're working with who've seen some dogmen dragging the dead body of a Bigfoot through the woods at LBL.
Wow.
Now, again, until we talk to them ourselves or see some evidence of it, it's just a story.
That's somebody else's research.
Yeah, it's somebody else's research, but, you know, it was told to us as truth.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've never heard anything like that.
But these dogmen do seem to be, for whatever reason, trapped in the north end of LBL, not able to get out unless they can learn to swim somehow. So they've got, if they're going to migrate out of there, they're going to have to go through Bigfoot country.
Wow, that's something else. Move on to this next picture. What we got here, guys?
Oh, that's a good one.
That is from the first night we ever got run out of the woods while we were creature hunting.
That's over actually fairly close to land between the lakes.
But it's in an area called Indian Mound. That's one of our research areas on private land where we built a geodesic dome so we could go and stay out in the woods for long periods of time and research this area. Do you want to tell them about this account?
This one here, we were out with a buddy of ours named Jason Acey. He's a fellow researcher. And we went into this area. There's a cave on the property, and you kind of have to cross a lot of fields and whatnot to get to it. You cross the fields and you come to a forest area. And we started to go into that area, had a bit of an uneasy feeling, and we started to see off in the woods, kind of close to the ground, some blue eye shine. And blue eye shine, from what I understand, it's not a very common eye shine color to see in the woods. It's often attributed to juvenile animals and maybe even some Bigfoot. It's actually attributed to Dogman too. Like researchers will say that when you see Dogman eye shine, it's often blue.
But we didn't know that at the time because at that point we still didn't believe in Dogman.
We kind of, I guess, thought it was misidentified Bigfoot, but anyway, we stared at that eye shine for a few minutes, and eventually we kept on walking, and we're getting closer to this cave area when we hear.
But there was abandoned equipment at the cave.
Was there abandoned equipment?
Yeah. Somebody had left their camping equipment abandoned at this cave and just left it.
You talking about like all those, like that cooler and those candles
Yeah.
and whatnot? Yeah. We actually took some of that home. It was abandoned there, so.
But go ahead.
But we're heading down to that area, and we start to hear this great pressure being put up against a tree. You can slowly hear it cracking, and it kind of threw you off for a second because you don't know what's going on. But then you hear it just snap, and it was a very powerful break, and it just slammed to the ground. And I think I heard some kind of a call while it was going on, but I don't think anybody else heard it. But it was one of the most, at the time, it was probably the most violent event to happen to us in the woods at the time.
Yeah, I don't get jarred very often, really jarred in the woods much. That was the first time I ever pulled my weapon in the woods.
No, we're
because
not.
It was such a violent slamming of this tree.
Now we should add that we don't advocate killing these creatures, but we will bring some kind of protection on us because, if something attacks us, I mean, we want to be able to defend ourselves. But that's the first time drawn his weapon like that. And we made our way out. The other researcher was Jason Acey. He's saying, let's go, let's stay over here, let's go toward it. And
I told him, I said, no. I said, I'll come back with you, but I'm taking my kids back to the house because they were just teenagers at the time.
We were wee little at the time.
And so I took them back, and the next morning we made our way back over there, and we walked past this little cemetery that we had to pass to get to the field to where we were going to this cave. And this big cedar limb, that's a cedar limb you're seeing there, is just broke off. And you can see the guy that's reaching up there. He's just under 6 foot, and he's reaching as high as he can. And that something over through the night had broke that limb off. And that limb is so thick, you probably have a hard time tying a chain to it and putting a truck on it and getting that limb to break. And so something very big snapped that limb during the night.
And we know there's I guess almost without a shadow of a doubt that there's Sasquatch in the area because this is a wide forested area. And down the road from this property, you have to drive up a hill to get to this property. But down the road from it, they used to have a pet donkey down the road. And oftentimes we'd be sitting by our dome or on that property. And on the backside away from the road off in the woods where there's no houses, it's just a large swath of forest, you'd hear something really deep and almost gravelly imitating these donkey sounds. And you just hear it coming out of the woods. They'd circle your camp. We lost the clip. It was a great clip. We recorded these donkey sounds coming up out of the woods, and it sounded like it got strangled, like it choked itself, and you could hear it kind of choking, making these donkey sounds.
Yeah, as it was making this, like somebody trying to do a weird call and then got choked doing it. And but yeah, whatever it was would come up there and it would imitate donkeys and owls behind us.
And we've got roars from this area.
You still hear it occasionally out there, and the donkey's been gone for years. The people moved and it's gone, but it'll still imitate that donkey up there.
You'll hear cows up there. You'll hear donkeys. You'll just hear roars, whoops. We got a lot of those sounds on our YouTube and on our website.
Yeah, we got those there in Indian Mound, a lot of them. And it's odd, depending on who you let listen to them. The great Linda Godfrey, I don't know if you're familiar with her. Do you know Linda Godfrey?
No, I don't.
She's the one that done the primary research on the Beast of Bray Road and has written a lot of the books about real wolf men in America. And she's written other creature books about Bigfoot and such. she listened to the audio and she said that's a Bigfoot. But yet other people who are sort of experts in the field said no, that's a Dogman.
So we've never got a real clear answer on it.
But what you can definitely be sure of is it's not coyote and it's not wolf.
Now, something real interesting is at the top of the hill where they got their house built, there's a lot of large cedar trees up there. And something came up, I guess, during the night and just pushed all these cedar trees over in random directions.
Probably about 20 or 30 cedar trees are just pushed over in just different directions. Some pushed this way, some are pushed that way. So you can't say a storm at some point. It's when they started moving up there, clearing the land. It ticked something off. Something went up there and just throwed a fit and pushed down all that little grove of cedar trees.
And something else real interesting. On the job site, we're always talking about what we do. Some people support it, some people don't. And one day, my safety guy, we do construction, and our safety guy came up to me one day and started talking to me. And he's like, "You want to tell me what you're doing in LBL?" And I started telling him. And he started asking me and telling me about these things he encountered in Indian Mound. And I was like, well, shoot, that's where my research area is.
Turns out our research area is just a short distance as a crow flies to where he had some encounters.
He told me that he'd walk the riverbanks when he was young, and he'd find these big, giant footprints down by the bank. And he'd tell his dad about it, and he's like, don't be hunting down here by yourself.
Well, his daddy went down there and finally saw him. He didn't,
yes,
didn't think much about it till he went down there and saw him, and then seen it was way too big to be a human, and it wasn't bear. So his daddy finally made him stop going down there hunting.
Well, but yeah, just to touch on something you said, Johnny, about and Elijah, about having your weapons out there, and you don't advocate killing one of these things. I think you're crazy. You're crazy to go out in the woods unarmed. There's no way that I would. I mean, Bigfoot, Dogman, all that, aside. I mean, there's bear, there's, the mountain lions. There's all kind of stuff in the woods.
On somebody's pot field out there, and you liable to get in trouble too. You need to have a way to defend yourself. So
exactly.
We definitely advocate having a weapon with us. We don't go out there with the intention of shooting anything. I'm very much, you live your life and let me live mine. I ain't gonna mess with you. You don't mess with me. But if you start trying to hurt me or my youngsters, then I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna sleep like a baby.
I hear you. Well, guys, we are here up on an hour. I know it flew by, but we try to keep the shows around an hour. So, been showing your website up there all night, the Cryptid Studies Institute. You guys are also on Instagram and on Facebook. And what else?
We're on YouTube. That's our primary platform, pretty much. We got all kinds of videos. We upload our radio show broadcasts. We do our miniature documentaries. We just uploaded one on a mystery creature and
over in Grassy Cove
and a paranormal encounter. It's squished into one video. People seem to like that one so far. Everybody's favorite seems to be The Legend of Werewolf Springs. That's about 30 minutes, and people seem to like that one pretty fair.
Yeah, and the Dark Hollow.
Dark Hollow, that's the Beast of LBL one.
Right. Okay. Before we go, we're working real heavy. We're planning a Cryptid Con later this summer, July 1st through the 5th, and we've rented an entire summer camp to host this thing. So we're really trying to get all that worked out to bring that to fruition. We've already got the place locked down. We've just got to get all of our ducks in a row, see if we can get some speakers, and all the little things like that, and see if we can find some what are the promoters and supporters. We're going to be working on a Kickstarter, but it should be a big old time, 5 days out there in the woods. We're going to offer to take people on some night hunts if they want to go.
And it's right in Montgomery Bell State Park in Dixon. So
where we had sighted those ones on the bridge and such.
So you're in a Sasquatch research location, and about 3 miles away from this, you got Werewolf Springs, where dogmen have been allegedly seen. So it's just a great location.
And then we're about an hour and 40 minutes away from Land Between the Lakes, where you got both Bigfoot and Dogman. So wherever you want to go, we'll try to take you one place or the other, and show you a good time.
And when are you planning on doing this?
July 1st through the 5th. We're trying to put a team together now to help us, organize it, because we're not interested in making a killing out of this thing. It's a labor of love, but we've got to try to make enough to get our money back. It's cost us about $2,000 just for the rent on this place.
And fun fact, if you ever seen the movie Ernest Goes to Camp, it's the same summer camp where they filmed
Ernest Goes to Camp. There are between 25 and 40 cabins there. Some of them are have bedding in them. So I think we got about 30 something cabins with bedding in it. So somebody could buy their tickets, their tables, and their room and board, for a reasonable dollar amount. We're not even going to be nearly as costly as most cons are.
Yeah.
We're going to have just enough to make our money back. It's a labor love. We'd love to have people come out and just, spend a few days together, chewing the fat in the woods, and then, have an actual Cryptid Con the last 2 days, and maybe do some workshops and things throughout the week, have some entertainment, maybe see if we can't round up a food truck or something in case people want to eat.
We got a large dining hall. People will probably set up an industrial kitchen. There's a smoker on the site. Just a huge field. And if we run out of cabins, the area is so big that you can actually have spots for tent camping too. It's just a huge swath of land. There's an archery range. A
little place. We got a canoe. We got a little dock there where you can put your canoe in and float around. So it ought to be a really big time if we can just get everything worked out between now and July.
And we seem to be gathering a lot of interest for it. So we've got our fingers crossed that people will enjoy it.
Yeah, we got to start looking at things like
event insurance,
into event insurance and different things. Because if somebody gets hurt, we don't want to be responsible for it. Maybe get waivers, so if people get hurt, we're not responsible. But we're hoping to bring a lot of people together from the cryptid community to just, everybody's so cliquish in this field. They're like, I'm not telling you where my research area is. Fine, I don't want to know. But here's mine. I'll tell you where it's at. I don't own this place. If you can go in there and find the evidence, go for it. I just like to have the mystery solved. I don't care. If you get the credit, that's fine with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys. Hopefully, I'm planning on it. We'll stay in touch, and anything that we can do to help you guys with the endeavor, we'll be glad to do. I know I'm speaking for Rick, but I'm sure that he feels the same. That anything we can do to help, guys. That sounds awesome.
All right, hey guys, a minute now. You're in a certain area down there. If I were you, I would check out Pity Pat Holler.
Oh, that's a great spot.
In that area there's been legends of a creature down there. It's Shipley Hollow Road down there in Sail Creek.
Sail Creek, Shipley Hollow Road.
And we told you about the state park over there right in your area where the forest ranger told us that there's 3 Sasquatch in this park. You know where it's at. I won't say it on the air and get him in trouble for talking about something he shouldn't.
Yeah.
But, there's places there you can check out. And I know years ago there was a Sasquatch that used to be linger around up at Lone Mountain there in Ray County, right up the mountain. So there's some good areas there for you. And by total accident, one of those little hairless chupacabra dogs crossed the road in front of us, right up there on top of the mountain.
One of those dogs that look like they have mange. We just seen it run across the road one day.
So you got some interesting stuff in your area.
Yeah, we do. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us and talk a little bit, and want to wish you guys good luck in all that you do. And
the same to you, my friends.
Yes, sir.
Stay in touch with your little endeavor that you're putting together up there. That sounds like a good time. Anything we can do to help, guys, just let us know.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good evening, my friend.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, Rick. Well, we've let them go, but we're still on. Good show, guys. I told you about these guys. You guys know what they're doing, and
What's going on up there?
yeah. Anything you want to throw in? Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
No, not tonight. Tomorrow night when we're on, maybe discuss a little about what we've got going on. Give the folks a little heads up on it. Other than that, man, I guess that's it for tonight.
All right, man. Another one down. Again, I appreciate everybody coming out and supporting us. And everybody, again, email us your encounters, join our Facebook group, and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, everybody.